Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into Crushing Flags and Claiming the Villainess, a reincarnation fantasy novel where our protagonist is reincarnated into a reverse harem game. But he's not the typical hero. Luke, the new guy in town, is supposed to follow the protagonist's lead and ditch the villainess, but instead, he decides to rewrite the fate of the so-called villainess. Let's see if this twist on reincarnation tropes is worth your time. Luke dies in an accident and finds himself reincarnated in the world of a reverse harem game, with a role that seems predetermined. He's supposed to abandon the villainess, who's fated to die a tragic death, and follow the protagonist like a side character. However, Luke can't bear to let the villainess meet her tragic end, so he decides to change things and challenge the fate set for him. This action-packed, anti-hero romance explores Luke's journey to break free from the game's mechanics and find his own path, one where he actively works to protect and claim the villainess for himself. Luke is a unique take on the reincarnated protagonist. He's not the typical hero or savior figure. He starts off as a side character, meant to follow the rules of the game. His goal? To overthrow his predetermined fate and make sure the villainess doesn't face the tragic end laid out for her. He's not overly heroic or saintly, which makes him an interesting anti-hero character. Instead of blindly following the protagonist, Luke acts out of his own sense of justice, making decisions based on his desires rather than the plot. His journey of growth involves embracing his new identity, fighting the system, and claiming what he wants for himself. The villainess is a central character in this story, not the typical evil woman you might expect. She's fated to be discarded, yet Luke decides to protect and claim her, changing the course of her life. While the villainess's development does feel a bit shallow at times, it's refreshing to see a protagonist who isn't just out to defeat the antagonist, but actually works to create a new life for someone he's not supposed to care about. Her character arc could have been fleshed out more, but she's still an intriguing piece in the story's romantic dynamics. While the story does include elements of action, it's more about the psychological and emotional stakes than constant physical battles. Luke's struggle is against fate itself, and it's clear from the beginning that he's up against a system that's trying to control his every move. The battle isn't just for survival, but for agency. Luke wants to change his role in destiny. As he actively challenges the plot, it creates a deeper tension, particularly as he begins to take risks for the people he cares about, especially the villainess. The novel introduces a system, a common feature in many reincarnation novels, that guides the protagonist, but it also acts as a source of conflict. The system tries to force Luke into a role he doesn't want, but he actively resists it, bending the system to his will. While the system aspect isn't anything new, Luke's resistance to it and his determination to rewrite the game's rules makes it a unique twist. His path isn't easy, and while the system gives him some guidance, it's ultimately up to him to shape his own destiny. One of the criticisms of Crushing Flags and Claiming the Villainess is the lack of depth in its characters. The characters, while functional in the context of the plot, often feel like cardboard cutouts with very little development. This is especially noticeable with side characters who are introduced but not explored. For example, a side character who becomes obsessed with the original protagonist is given no backstory or motivations. He's just a plot device. A deeper exploration of characters' motivations and histories would have enhanced the story significantly, making it feel more immersive and emotional. While the premise of Crushing Flags and Claiming the Villainess is engaging, the execution falters at times. The story development feels shallow, especially in the early chapters. Many of the twists and turns are predictable, and the narrative doesn't always capitalize on its potential for character growth and complexity. There are a few plot holes here and there, though they do get addressed as the story progresses. The lack of complexity and depth in the character development is something that holds the story back from being truly great. Crushing Flags and Claiming the Villainess is an enjoyable read, particularly if you're a fan of reincarnation novels with a twist. The concept of a protagonist resisting the system and fighting for the villainess is refreshing, and there's a lot of potential for deeper emotional and psychological exploration. However, the story could have benefited from more in-depth character development and a more complex plot. Still, for those who enjoy a lighthearted, anti-hero romance with a dash of action and intrigue, this novel is definitely worth checking out. Have you read Crushing Flags and Claiming the Villainess? What do you think of Luke's approach to changing his fate? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more reviews on your favorite web novels.